Shalom, everyone. Shalom. Shalom, everyone. Praise Yah. Welcome. This is going to be the beginning of our examination of prophecy. We've been diving into prophecy a lot, touching on prophecy here and there. In our last study pertaining to the lake of fire, we touched on quite a few prophecies. We tend to touch on prophecy in regards to millennial kingdom, what the kingdom is going to be like, second coming, and then we did lake of fire. So it seems like now we have to start diving through this. Yah willing, he'll give us, we'll get a little bit more growth in order to support doing this more. I'm trying to squeeze everything in the weekend, you know what I mean? So much based off of what you guys talk about, what you guys ask, and what you guys are studying. There's so much to talk about. So today we're going to be talking about the prophecy, the very first prophecy of Scripture. Probably the most important prophecy in Scripture is pertaining to that promised seed that was going to crush the head of the serpent. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this is because there's a lot of discarding of Yahushua, right? Not only discarding of him, there's a discarding of the New Testament, there's a discarding of the Gospels, even there's a discarding of the historic existence of Messiah. So it's pretty crazy out there. To discard the New Testament and then be floating around with Torah, not looking for anyone, not knowing how Yahushua is going to come. So we want to kind of discuss not only the prophecy that's in Genesis 3, but just like what we've been doing with our Genesis studies. We've been kind of dissecting all the stuff that the prophecy is, and we've been clearing up all the stuff that it is not, all the ideas that's been floating around that pertaining to prophecy. We're going to clear that up as we go through as well. Okay. So I want you to kind of like follow really closely. Make sure you guys participate in the chat. Let me greet you guys. Shalom, Aliyah Yasmin. Shalom, Sister Paula. Always glad to see you guys. Naturally Lee. Shalom. Shalom. Cartea, shalom. Jeremiah, shalom, brother. Shalom, family. Shalom, Clayton G. I got it right. Clayton G. Shalom, brother. Shalom, everybody that's watching. Shalom, everybody that's gonna watch. I know you guys are gonna hop on and be like, oh man, I didn't know. I didn't know either. So I just knew that we had to do it. We had to do it. So praise Yah. I prayed before we started. So if you guys want to pray as I begin, pray for you, for your own understanding, for your eyes to be open, for Yah to show you and show you what's going on. In case I'm misstepping, you guys could kind of tighten it up for me. All right, clarify it in the scripture in the chat. Let me know where I went off. Let me know, affirm what you see, and we're gonna kind of have a big picture. And I'm really excited about this prophecy examination. We're gonna have a big picture that we're gonna see, and that it's really gonna tighten up our view on the good news. It's gonna tighten up our view on the Torah. It's gonna tighten up our view on history and on the future. And it's also going to tighten up our view to the point where we're not going to be tossed to and fro. We're going to simplify this to the point as children, to the point where nobody can come with these elegant breakdowns and throw us off. We're going to be like, we're going to simplify to the point where there's no wiggle room to try to deceive us. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying people are always trying to, but sometimes that's the nature of lies. It's deceptive. So what we're going to do is, even if people believe it and are genuine, the nature of lies, a lie is to bring in deception. So I praise Yah that we have this opportunity, and we're about to dive in. Shalom, Sister Amy. Shalom, the Moody family, if you guys are watching together. Praise Yah. All right, so let's start. Now, I want to discuss something as well. Let's go to the verse. Genesis chapter 3, looking at verse 15. It says, "And I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. It shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel," right? His heel, singular. So this is literally talking about one individual. This is talking about one individual that Yah is promising to come through, and it says the woman. And I like that it's saying the woman, because it's not emphasizing on any particular woman. It's not talking about Miriam. We're gonna see what it's talking about. Okay, it's talking about his covenant, and I want to make sure that we understand his covenant, and we're gonna look through the scriptures to see why. Right. So it's saying that the serpent's children is going to bruise, or the serpent. There's going to be a enmity, a disconnect between the children that follows the serpent and the woman's seed, right? It will bruise your head, meaning that the seed is going to crush the serpent's head, and the son or the seed is going to be bruised. I need you to remember this: the bruised, very important word. So what we're going to do is we're going to see the emphasis on bruise, and then we're going to come back to show how Yah has indicated how this seed was going to be bruised throughout history, from Genesis all the way to the time that Yahushua came. Watch, right? So let's go to chapter 4. Now, chapter 4 talks about we know that it's the offerings and the sacrifices absolutely starts with Adam. Yah shows Adam. Adam teaches his children. So we see in chapter 4 that Cain and Abel are bringing offerings to Yah. Specifically, Abel, the righteous, is bringing a sacrifice, an animal sacrifice to Yah. And that sacrifice is being slaughtered, is being killed, right? So it's interesting. The bruising of the seed is also reflected directly in the killing or the slaughtering of this symbolic offering of the flock. This is literally what this prophecy goes into. The prophecy of Genesis 3:15 goes directly into the sacrifice that they started to symbolically perform for atonement right after that. Brother Reuben, you could come. You could probably come next week. Yahusha is definitely not Yahuwah, but we can. I want to definitely talk about it later. All right. Yahusha is the promised seed, absolutely, but we want to kind of show the consistency, because what we don't want to do is we don't want people to start tossing out the New Testament, tossing out the good news, tossing out Yahusha in general as the Messiah. We don't want people tossing out the prophets, thinking that the criteria of a prophet is to have like some type of prophecy talking about you. That's not what Moses said was the criteria. So we're going to go down each step. We don't have to worry about how clear a prophecy talks about Yahushua. We just have to know what Moses said was the criteria, if that fits Messiah, and it absolutely does. So we see that the promised seed that was told to them would be bruised goes right into the symbolic representation of this sacrifice that was slaughtered on their behalf. Now, remember what I told you to remember the word bruise. Let's go to, I know everybody knows this one. Let's go to Isaiah. Well, let's see if we can see a little bit of consistency in this bruising of this this representation of substitution, right? Something that was substituted for you. So we have the promised seed, praise Yah, absolutely. And then we have the promise, the sacrifices. That's literally the same conversation as Genesis 3:15, the promised seed. And so when we get to Genesis 22, we have an example of that. We have Abraham and his son. We have Abraham and his son, and we're seeing that Yah is asking or testing Abraham to display or demonstrate the sacrificing of his son. And we have here in chapter 2, it says, take now your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and get you into the land of Moriah, and offer him for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains, which I will tell you. And so why would he say your only son? I know there's many kind of philosophical reasons why, but in a simplistic reasoning, right? He had a son already. That son was Ishmael. But that wasn't the son of promise. That wasn't the son that Yahuwah was going to actually, I would say, perform or bring forth, right? So Isaac was the one that Yahushua brought forth, and it substituted for his other firstborn. This was the true firstborn that Yah initially wanted to be there, but it was a substitute. It substituted on behalf of the first son, right? And I'm going to show you how this mentality has been since the beginning. So this is why he's called the only begotten son, and he was to be offered as a burnt offering on Mount Moriah. If we go down to verse 6, it says Abraham took the wood of the burning, laid it on Isaac, the son, and he took the fire by hand and a knife, and they went both up together. So Isaac is the one carrying the wood, and it's kind of interesting how Yahushua was the one carrying the wood that he brought to Golgotha or Mount Calvary. He carried the wood, and then he fell, and Simon of Cyrene had to carry it for him. So it's interesting how Isaac had to carry the wood that was going to be used to burn him as an offering. Abraham said, my son, Elohim will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. You see that? You see the correlation. You see the correlation. Abraham didn't fully know that Isaac wasn't going to be this lamb, but Abraham was kind of telling him Yah's going to provide for himself a lamb, but Abraham was talking about Isaac. So you see how the son and the lamb are literally correlating together, just like what we said before. The promised seed and the sacrifice that Abel made was both talking about the same thing. There was something that was going to be on their behalf. There's something that was going to be slaughtered or killed on their behalf, right? Abraham did the same thing. Isaac, Yah will provide a lamb for himself. So he referred to Isaac as that lamb, and that's what we see. That seed that's going to be bruised by the serpent is also the lamb sacrifice that they started to practice since Adam and Abel and on. It says here, they came to the place which Elohim told them, and Abraham built an altar there, and they laid the wood in order and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar upon the wood. Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. The angel of Yahuwah called him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. He said, here I am. So he starts to declare, okay, you showed me your faithfulness. And then he gives him a substitute. He gives him a substitute, which was the ram that was stuck in the thicket. Now, remember what I told you guys about the bruised word, right? I told you guys about the bruised word that we saw in Genesis. Let's go back real quick and look at it, and then let me take you right to what I want to correlate it to. Verse 15 says, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. It shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. So bruise his heel. That temporary bruising was talking about the temporary death that Yahushua was going to receive. And of course, he was going to be resurrected. But that bruising is literally talking about his death. So this is why the sacrifices was this bruising, was a representation of this bruising. Look at what Isaiah 53 says in regards to both, again, correlating a person with a sacrifice. So this kind of throws out this idea of, oh, there's no human sacrifice. This is not a human sacrifice. Isaac was clearly strong enough to push his 100-year-old father down and be like, nah, you're not going to do this to me. Isaac literally volunteered to lay himself down. Abraham couldn't even carry the wood up the mountain. You think he's going to be able to fight his own his grown teenage son? His son is probably like 17 years old. But anyway, the bruising of his heel. So let's look at this. Isaiah chapter 53. So verse 3 and 4, and then we're going to read down, right? It says, he is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows. He's acquainted with grief. Shalom, brother. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised. We did not esteem him, right? We is Isaiah talking about the Israelites. Surely he have bore our griefs. He bore it on his shoulders, like it went on him. He carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of Elohim, and afflicted. People thought he was punished by Yah. He was punished by Yah. He was wounded for our transgressions. Everybody's familiar with that. Watch this. He was bruised. He was bruised for our iniquities. You see that word bruised again. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was on him, and with his stripes we are healed. Watch this. All we like sheep gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and Yahuwah have laid on him the iniquity of us all. Right? The iniquity of his people, the iniquity of the Israelites. Now, of course, this sacrifice is offered to everyone else. But this is a very specific thing that Isaiah the prophet is talking about. He was oppressed, he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was brought as a lamb to the slaughter, as a sheep before her shearers is without word, so he opened not his mouth. Watch this. He was taken from prison and from judgment. We know that he was taken from prison and he was taken from Pilate. Who shall declare his generation? He was cut off. He was killed out of the land of the living. Because of the transgression of the people was he stricken. You see that? He was cut off. He was killed out of the land of the living. You see that? Now, I wanted to point out this specific verse right here in verse 10 and 11. Watch this, guys. It says, yet it pleased Yahuwah to bruise him. He says, bruise him again. But now look at what he's going to correlate this bruising to. He have put him to grief when he made his soul an offering for sin. You see that? The bruising is correlated with him being a sin offering. So when we go back to Genesis 3 and then see Genesis 4, right? We go back to Genesis 3 and see that he will be bruised. And then we go to Genesis 4 and then we see a sin offering offered by Abel, right? We see clearly that the seed, the promised seed, is displayed in the practice of the sacrifice. The slaughtering of the sacrifice is the memorial that there's supposed to be someone to substitute to take this penalty away from me. That's why I would offer a sacrifice, so that way I can remember that Yah promised me a sacrifice or a substitute that was going to come and take it from me. Now watch this. I'm taking this slow because I want to show you how clear it is. The same thought of Yahushua has been from the beginning. The one of the coming Yahushua has been from the beginning. This wasn't like a surprise. It wasn't a surprise on them when the New Testament came. It wasn't like, oh, snap. Oh, yeah, now Yah is going to kind of take a detour and bring us into a different type of method of salvation, a different type of method of being redeemed and all of this stuff. No. This is the same thing that all of Yah's people and prophets have spoken about, have waited for. This is what Abraham was waiting for. So when you're talking to Adam and Eve, and then they have a son, and that son is Cain. and Cain kills Abel. Remember, Abel is the second child. The idea of Cain is that Cain was supposed to be the seed. They were waiting on the seed to be born. So the idea of the seed was waiting for that one that was going to crush the head of the serpent. They wasn't waiting for the whole nation, all the children of Israel, all of these. They wasn't waiting for that. They was waiting for that one from Genesis that was going to crush the head of the serpent. You understand? So watch this. Cain rebelled. So what did that do? That threw them off. That threw them off. They were like, wait a minute. We're waiting for the son. We're waiting for that seed to come. I thought Cain, the firstborn. I thought he was going to be the one. When Cain went into exile and Abel was killed, they named their next son Seth. And watch what they did. They named him Seth. And let me give you guys a pop quiz. What does Seth's name mean? What does Seth's name mean? You can put it in the chat. I'm gonna give a limited time so we could keep the study moving forward. What does his name mean? Shalom, walking his ways. Let's look at this. H8352. Seth's means compensation, right? Paid for. In other words, substitution, right? Something on the behalf of something else. You see, Seth's name is not to substitute, is compensation, meaning like it's a payment. Remember, we are bought with a price. Yahusha was the payment. He was the compensation. He was the substitution on our behalf. But they thought, people think that he substituted for Abel because Abel was righteous. No. He substituted for Cain. He substituted for Cain because they were waiting for the firstborn to come and fulfill that prophecy in Genesis 3:15. They were waiting for someone to come and crush the head of the serpent and be bruised as a substitute on our behalf. They were waiting for someone to come and make compensation for our sins and our iniquities. Seth's name was based off of them losing Cain and continuing to remember the prophecy of someone coming to compensate or to substitute us on our behalf. But the scriptures call the sacrifices a substitute or propitiation, a substitute, like something on our behalf. It's payment for our atonement. You understand? Please let me know if things start getting too, because I want this to be clear. So when we go from beginning to end, we see one picture. And then when we break down the prophecies, it doesn't change this picture. This picture is the same. Yahushua is the forefront. Yah has put his son in the forefront of everything. From the time that sin came into the world, he put Yahushua in the forefront of that prophecy in Genesis 3:15. And they've been remembering this all the way to the time that Messiah came. And then we ought to be remembering it all the way to now and on. You understand? Shalom. Still learning. Shalom. So now we see that the bruising of his heel is the display or the representation of the sacrifice being killed. So the sacrifice being killed is the memorial of the prophecy that's in Genesis 3:15. The correlating between the sacrifice and the seed being bruised, we saw it in Isaiah 53. And we also saw Abraham refer to his son as the sacrifice, saying as the lamb, saying that Yah will provide a lamb. But Abraham was talking about his son, because his son didn't know what the sacrifice was, but Abraham knew that. So he referred to Isaac as the lamb. So we saw that the seed was also supposed to be the sacrifice. So every sacrifice represented, from the very first time that they offered sacrifices, it represented the one that was going to substitute them in the penalty of compensating for sin. Let me say it like that. We saw it in Isaiah 53 that they called him the sin offering because he was supposed to compensate for our iniquities. You see what I'm saying? So we're gonna let's continue to move forward, right? Let's continue to move forward. Look at what was offered, right? So now watch this. Now we have an issue with the people with the Masoretic text. Look at what it says. Psalms chapter 40. Let me show you what it says here normally in the Masoretic text. It says this, starting at verse 6 to 8. Sacrifice and offering you did not desire. My ears you have opened. Burnt offerings and sin offering you did not require. Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book. It is written of me. I delight to do your will, O my Elohim. Your Torah is within my heart. Right? So this is also repeated in the book of Hebrews. And this is a little bit of proof why I believe they were reading the Greek Septuagint, or one of the Septuagints that they had. Hebrews chapter 10, looking at verse 5 to 10. Look what it says. Wherefore, when he came into the world, right, talking about Yahushua, he said, sacrifices and offering you didn't want. But then look what it says here. A body you prepared for me. A body you prepared for me. A body you prepared for me. Sacrifices and an offering, but a body you prepared for me, showing that his body was going to be the sacrifice. Just like we see in Isaiah 53, just like we saw in Genesis 22, just like we see in Genesis 3:15 and Genesis 4. A body you prepared for me. In burnt offerings and sacrifice, you had no pleasure. Why? Because you always was waiting. We were always waiting for the one to come and take compensate for the penalty. The one to bring atonement to us by substituting us for himself. Lo, I come in the volume of the book. It is written to me to do your will, O Elohim. You see what I'm saying? When he said sacrifices and offering and burnt offerings for sin, you did not want, but you had pleasure in it. Now, where in the world did we see the body? A body is prepared for you. Watch this, guys. This is why you got to keep on investigating. This is the Masoretic text. Let me show you what the Greek text says in the Brenton Septuagint. Sacrifices and offering you did not want, but a body you prepared for me. You see, it's not in the Masoretic text, but it is in the Septuagint. It's in the Greek text of the Torah and the prophets, but it's not in the Masoretic text, which is a newer version of the Hebrew text. So we see here clearly that in Hebrews, he has something original, and that the Masoretic is not the original, but that this Septuagint did get something from the original. This is how we correlate the New Testament in the book of Hebrews to Psalms 40. It shows us that the Masoretic text is a newer rendition of the scriptures, and it's not completely accurate. This is why it's good to learn Hebrew in regards to the understanding of the language, the meaning and stuff like that. But context is always going to be the key, because even if you take something out of the Hebrew, guess what? You're still removing the context. Why was a body removed? Because, of course, people didn't want to know, they were rebellious. The Israelites at that time did not want to believe that Yahushua was the one that came and fulfilled this prophecy. So they changed it. But look at how faithful Yah is. We still have evidence that is supposed to be in there. We have Bibles that still have it in there. We have New Testament renditions of Psalms that still has it in there, and there's a consistency in those texts. So a body you prepare for me, because the body of Messiah was the sacrifice for sin. This has always been understood. David understood this. The prophets understood this. This is why the prophets preached about the one that was to come. They understood this. The understanding changes not when Yahushua comes. The understanding changes of the seed when the last disciple dies. When we go into the second centuries, when we start having church fathers, when we start having Roman implementation, when the Israelite culture is removed from the belief of scripture and it becomes a Greek culture, when everything is centered around whatever was established in the second and third and fourth century, rather than what the Torah and the prophet says. This is when the removal of this consistency comes into play. But we're going to go back and we're going to restore the consistency. The consistency that Messiah has always been the sacrifice. He wasn't a human sacrifice. He volunteered himself. Yahushua said it himself. He volunteered himself to be this. And every single person knew someone was supposed to come and get bruised and die and be slaughtered. This is why they offered offerings, because everybody knew someone was going to come to be slaughtered on our behalf. So the idea of a human sacrifice, get that out. You know, when people bring that up, that's this is and a lot of people bring it up. I'm talking about teachers. When teachers and leaders bring that up in order to discard of the New Testament, they're silly. They are silly. To discard Yahushua because you don't understand about the prophecy in Genesis 3:15 that was memorialized in the sacrifices, in the sacrificial system from the very beginning. Every time a sacrifice is made, it pointed us right back to someone is supposed to come to compensate for our transgressions. So when you discard of Yahushua, who you waiting for? Who you waiting for? It's going to be a big problem, a big deception to discard of Yahushua. That's a huge thing. You know what I mean? But we need to be solid in the train of thinking. They always knew. So when we get to Abraham and he was promised, right? Abraham was promised a seed. Now here's where we get to what we hear with the Ashkenazis. This is what we hear with the Hebrew Israelites. This is what we hear now, right? Because we're going to get to the whole Christian view of the spiritual Israel. Then we got the literal Israel. Then we got the Ashkenazi Israel. Well, let's see what the scripture is actually pointing to. Because so far, all we see the scripture pointed to is the Messiah. We see the existence of a nation. We see the existence of a people. But we see that everybody is waiting for the Messiah, not for a people. You understand? The Ashkenazis has had this idea that, oh, the ones afflicted is us. And now we're having this constant, oh, the Christians are going to be persecuted. Oh, this is us. Everything is us. Everything is Yahushua. Everything is Yahushua. And we bear the burden. We suffer for Yahushua, for his sake. See what I'm saying? So what did Abraham wait for? What was he told about? Let's go to this. Now watch this. I'm going to go to Abraham's prophecy, and we're going to see the heir that Abraham was waiting for. Because one thing that I notice is that people forget that Yah is not going to leave out anything for Abraham. He says, shall I hide that which I do from my friend? He's not going to leave out all the stuff that we just mentioned from Genesis and not tell Abraham about this promised seed. That's craziness. That's craziness. So let's go to what he tells Abraham at first. In Genesis chapter 12, verse 7, he says, Yahuwah appeared to Abraham and said, unto your seed will I give this land. And he says, and there he built an altar unto Yahuwah, who appeared unto him. And so he said, okay, I have this promise that I'm going to have this land. This is, now we're going to get 15, 16 years later, right? Verse chapter 15, 16, 15 years later. After these things, the word of Yahuwah came to Abraham in a vision, saying, fear not, Abraham, I am your shield and your exceeding great reward, right? Abraham said, so now we're going to see what he is afraid of. Yahuwah came to him and said, fear not. Now we're going to see what he's going to start to express what he is afraid of. Abraham said to Yahuwah, what will you give me seeing that I don't have a child? Now he's afraid he don't have no son. He doesn't have the son that he was told had to come through, the promised son. The steward of Abraham's house is not Israel or the Israelites, right? It's one person, the steward of my house. He says is Eleazar, right? So he's about to give full control over his lineage and his people and his promise and his covenant, right? He's about to give all of that authority to Eleazar. When Eleazar was he was a honorable man. He worshiped Yah. He was a servant of the Most High. He was a faithful servant of Abraham. So there's no bringing down his actual existence. You know what I mean? He is a servant of the Most High. But that's not who Yah intended. He's not the promised son from Genesis 3:15. He's not the son that all the sacrifices represented. Abraham said, behold, to me, you didn't give me no seed, no children. But one born in my house, this Eleazar from Damascus, he was born in my house, under my control, under my authority. He is going to be my heir, right? The word of Yahuwah came to him saying, this is not going to be your heir, but he that comes forth from your own bowels, he's going to be your heir. Right? He that shall come, he's going to be your heir. He brought him forth abroad, said, look toward the heaven of the stars. If you are able to number them, he said unto him, so shall your children be. So you have two promises here. I want you guys to remember. He has two promises here. He has a promise of an heir, and then he has a promise that his children will be multiplied times 1,000,000, right? Two promises here. One heir to be the steward of his house, and then a promise that his children will multiply. This heir is going to multiply his children. Let me ask you guys a question. Did Isaac multiply his children as the stars of the sky? Yes or no? Did Isaac multiply his children as the star of the sky? Because Isaac was a physical representation. We saw that in Genesis 22 of Yahusha. But did Isaac multiply his children as the heir of his lineage? Did he multiply it? Yes or no? Put it in the chat. Type it in the chat. Type it in the chat. No. Isaac had about 2 children, Esau and Jacob had about 12 children, right? And they were the progenitors of the people that would produce a nation, right? One nation. Those children were numbered. Moses numbered them. Was that the stars? Because Yah said you wouldn't be able to number them. I want to tell you guys this. Yah said Abraham wouldn't be able to number his children. Moses numbered them. Moses took a consensus and numbered them. They knew how much they killed too. They knew how much people they killed, and they knew how much people died in the wilderness. They knew how much people went into the Egypt, and they knew how many people came out. Is that the promise of your children being as the stars of the sky? No, sir. No, sir. We're going to look at some more promises that cannot point to Isaac and Jacob. It can only point to the seed that was to come. It can only point to that seed. Because when you believe in that seed in Genesis 3:15 is when you are a part of the promise that was given to Abraham. You see, Abraham's covenant is not initially beginning in Abraham. It was given to Abraham from Noah, from Adam, from the beginning. Abraham was supposed to bring forth this seed. Now watch this. Everybody knew this. Abraham knew this. This is why he said, I don't have someone to be the heir of my house. He didn't say, I don't have a whole bunch of children to make a nation. No, he said, I don't have the one heir. I don't have that one heir. Let's continue to look at this. I hope you guys are following, because you're going to run into that. Shalom, daughter of Yahushua. Shalom, brothers and sisters. We're going to see that this is an issue, because this prophecy is so ignored that people get caught up in the nation. People get caught up in groups. People get caught up in denominations and crap like that. They don't realize that Yah can wipe out all of those things and Yah will still have his seed that was promised. You see what I'm saying? Let's look at this. Well, I have a few. I'm not sure, Brother Kevin Williams. You have Genesis 28. Hopefully this is a part of what we're talking about, 13 to 15. It says, behold, Yahuwah stood above it and said, I am Yahuwah Elohim, the Abraham of your father, Elohim of Isaac. The land wherein you lie, to you will I give it, and to your seed. Your seed shall be as the dust of the earth. Absolutely. You shall spread. Thank you, brother. From the west to the east, to the north, to the south. In your seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Blessed, not cursed. We're going to talk about why are they supposed to be blessed by the children of Israel. It says, behold, I am with you, and I will keep you. I will keep you in all places where you go, and I will bring you again into this land, and I will not leave you until I have done this thing. And Jacob woke up. Now, Jacob didn't own Canaan. Thank you for that verse. Jacob didn't own Canaan, because that promise again of ownership was not at the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So it wasn't like a reality at that time, because they didn't own Canaan. They lived there. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob lived together in Hebron. I think Abraham died when Jacob was like around 16. Like they lived in Canaan, but it didn't belong to them. The Amorites still controlled it. But he promised them dominion, and he didn't limit it to Canaan. He said he pointed north, west, east. He was like everywhere. This is a good question. This is a part of what I mentioned before. Give me 1 second. So this is a part of what I was mentioning before, right? Thank you for bringing this up, because this is part of the issue as far as interpretation is involved. Everything that Yah does physically is spiritual. Everything that Yah does physically is spiritual. There is no disconnect from physical and spiritual. Everything that Yah does physically is spiritual. The difference is there's a spiritual, which is righteousness, and then there's a carnal, which is wickedness, and they're both physical. So the seed are physical people, but it's not limited to people who are related by blood. That's why Yahusha being the seed, and Yahusha being the one that makes Abraham the father of many nations is very important, because we're not looking to Isaac to make him the father of many nations, nor are we looking to Jacob, because they only created the one nation that was promised. Yah promised to make one nation from Abraham, and Isaac and Jacob helped bring about that one nation. Now, there was supposed to be that one seed that was supposed to make Abraham the father of many nations. And that would be physical as well. You see what I'm saying? So let me bring you back to what we just talked about, because I think this is important. Genesis 15. I want to talk to you about real quick, and if real quick. So if you write in the chat, respond in the chat. Everybody can respond. He says here, there was somebody born in my house, and he said the one born in his house was Eleazar from Damascus. Now, Eleazar is not like his family member, but Eleazar was a part of his house. So does the house of Israel, the house of Abraham, only encompass blood relatives or direct family members? Or does the house encompass more than just people born out of the womb of the women that is a part of that family? Eleazar is not related to Abraham directly. I mean, we know everybody's related, if we want to be technical, with Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. But just talking about Abraham's lineage, Eleazar was not born of Abraham or any of Abraham's brothers or anything like that. Eleazar was born in Damascus, which Syria controlled. You see? So for Abraham to be saying that he is from my house, the house of Abraham encompassed someone that wasn't related to him, how do we assume that the house of Jacob doesn't encompass people that is not related to him? Other people were in Abraham's house. Exactly right. Other people were in Abraham's house. So who do we think is in the house of Israel, or the house of Abraham, or the house of Jacob, or the house of Yah? Do we only encompass blood related, or everyone who is faithful to the Most High? We have to encompass everyone who is faithful to the Most High, because that's how they viewed it. If you were loyal, if you were faithful, and if you served the Most High, he considered you a part of his house, to the point where Abraham was about to give him authority of not only his house, but also his covenant with Yah. He was going to pass on his covenant with Yah to Eleazar. You see what I'm saying? So, and Eleazar wasn't related to him. Yah didn't say that was an evil thing, because later on Eleazar did righteousness. He's actually the one that went and found the wife for Isaac. He's the one that found Isaac's wife later on. You know what I mean? So the foreigners, or people that was outside of the family, were also a part of the house if and only if they were faithful to the Most High. If they were not faithful to the Most High, it didn't matter if you was their servant, like you was not a part of Yah's house. It didn't matter. Like Yah wasn't, just because you was a worker, that doesn't mean nothing. You had to literally serve the Most High. You see what I'm saying? So we see like a merging of the foreigner even in Abraham's house. And so it's funny how when we get to Jacob's house, it has to be some literal only bloodline conversation. And that's not how Yah looks at his people. Now watch this. Before we go to Genesis 21, because now we're going to talk about the promised seed, and I'm glad that this came up, because this is a part of the conversation. Let's look at this real quick. And Kevin Williams, I really appreciate these questions. I want you to answer this question real quick. I'm going to go to Genesis 21, but first I'm going to go to Genesis 12, and then I'm going to go to Genesis 21. Look at this. Genesis 12. Abraham had a bloodline family. Abraham had a bloodline family, and Yah said, get out of your country. Right? He said, get out from your family, your kindred. And he said, separate even from your father's house. That means your father and everyone with your father before, you are cut from them. Yah disconnected his bloodline so he can become a whole different nation. A whole different nation. So being related to Terah and his family and his countrymen didn't mean anything to Yah. Yah separated Abraham from all of that family. So blood has nothing to do with what Yah just did here. Yah separated him from his blood. So when we say that a blood have to be anything, a blood don't have to be nothing if they're not connected to the Most High. Because the Most High is the one who's putting this family together. The Most High is the one that's cutting off people from the family and expanding one man's family in a nation. So the Most High is the one, and if you look throughout Scripture, you can clearly see Yah is still cutting people off, putting people in, etc., etc. Now, you said Genesis chapter 21 in regards to what we were explaining. So I hope that Genesis 12 answers it, but let's look at it. Genesis 21, looking at verse 9. Sarah saw Hagar the Egyptian, which she had bore unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said to Abraham, cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with my son. Right, with Isaac. The thing was grievous in Abraham's sight. Now I want you to understand what Sarah was told by Abraham. Abraham loved his son. Abraham loved his son. The thing was grievous to Abraham's sight because of his son. You see that? It was grievous because of his son, who? Isaac. Not Isaac, I'm sorry. It was grievous to him because of Ishmael. So you see that? This is why this statement was grievous, because of Ishmael. But what was so grievous about it is that Abraham was trying to extend the covenant that was with Isaac. He was trying to extend that to Ishmael also. So Sarah said, you get rid of her because her son cannot be heir with my son. They cannot both be heirs of the promise. Abraham was grieved because he was dealing with the reality of there's only one heir, and his other son that he loves is not a part of that. The firstborn blood relative, Abraham's son, seed, was not a part of it. It had something to do with what the Most High did, not with what they're, having their relations, what they did in the bed. That has nothing to do with it. It has to do who Yahuwah said and how Yahuwah is going to bring it forth. Let's go to verse. You said up to verse 13. Elohim said to Abraham, let it not be grievous in your sight about the lad, right? About your son, because of your bondwoman, right? He's talking about Ishmael. And everything that Sarah said, you have to listen to her. Everything that Sarah said is true. In Isaac shall your seed be called. And also the son of the bondwoman, I will make a great nation. This is why he was grieved. He was grieved because he really loved Ishmael. And not only that, Ishmael was his firstborn. Ishmael was a hunter. Ishmael was strong. But he wasn't it. It didn't matter. It didn't matter that he was blood related, the first son. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if he served the Most High. It didn't even matter if he served the Most High. The issue was that Abraham tried to obtain the promise by sleeping with Hagar, and Yah said, no, that was not my promise. So it grieved him because even in Genesis 17, he kept begging, Yah, please bless my son, bless Ishmael. He's a real father. He loved his son. But it doesn't take away from the fact that Yah is the one that puts the nation together. Yah is the one that puts the family together. It don't matter about blood. Ishmael was a Hebrew. It didn't matter if he was a Hebrew. Ishmael was the firstborn in Abraham's house. Think about that. Everybody's talking about Abraham's covenant now. Everybody's talking about Abraham's family, Abraham's house, Abraham's children. Ishmael was the firstborn to Abraham. None of these people could say that. But it didn't matter. What mattered was how Yahuwah said these things should be. And that's why he had to be separated, because Abraham was trying to conjoin Ishmael and Isaac's, the birthright to Ishmael and Isaac. And Yah said, no, it has to go to just Isaac. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. How can he do this? I want you to understand the mindset, right? The mercy that Yah has for us. He's showing us the issues, right? Sarah said that she can have a child through Hagar. When did Yah teach us this? Then Sarah's like, he can't be a conjoined heir with my son. I want to show you the crazy part about that. He can't be a conjoined heir with my son. Yah only promised this to my son. And the reason why Sarah could say that is because in Genesis 17, Yah literally points out Sarah and says through Sarah, this was going to happen. So Sarah understood the covenant at that point. Before, Sarah was like, I don't have no children. Maybe I could have children through, this is like some spiritualistic, worldly type of mindset. It had nothing to do with truth. Nobody can have a child by your husband sleeping with somebody else, and then that's your child. That doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So this is what Abraham was trying to do. That's why when Yah talks about faithful Abraham, it was always after Isaac was born. It wasn't before. When Yah talks about Abraham being faithful, it was always after Isaac was born. You see what I'm saying? So this is why they can say something or attempt to do something, but it never followed through, obviously. But you could clearly see Sarah's like, no, he can't be heir. And then Abraham was upset about her saying that. Why? What do you mean they both can't be heir? Well, because Yah said only Isaac. And so Yah had to tell Abraham she was right. You see what I'm saying? The seed was supposed to come through Sarah, right? She's a part of the covenant. She's a part of the promise. Now remember the promise, Genesis 3:15. The woman shall bear the seed, right? This was a part of that reoccurring promise, the substitute. Shalom, Sister Hannah. So when you see Abraham and Sarah talking about certain things, the details let you know like what issues was going on, what were the ideas, what ideas they had, and how that was contrasting the idea that Yah had. This is what caused conflicts a lot of times. But this is what grieved Abraham, that he could not allow his son, who he loved, to be a part of this thing. No, I appreciate those questions. These are all a part of clearing up the promised seed. Is all a part of clearing this up. Because the moment that we clear it up, and if you haven't seen the beginning, please go back and watch it. I think you'll be blown away by it. Because many people are ignoring the consistent perspective that Yah is giving to his people, and they're creating a different focus. My new focus is this, that, us, them, we, all of that. When the whole focus was him. The whole focus was him. Who is going to be bruised? Who is going to be a substitute for us? Who's going to compensate for our iniquities? That has always been the point of the promised seed. Now, watch what he said. The heir. Remember, Abraham had an heir, and then Abraham had children. Look at this correlation. Thank you for bringing up Romans also, Kevin. I appreciate it. I'm going to go to Galatians. We may have to have a part 2. Because I don't want this to be too long and drawn out. And then, I want everybody to gather, everything live. You know what I mean? Thank you for the questions. Don't hold back the questions, guys. If it's centered around this, please don't bring in any questions like earlier to kind of like deviate from what we're talking about. Please don't ask me to repent, and we didn't even have a conversation yet. Please don't do foolish things like that. Galatians 3, looking at verse 16 and 17, look what it says. It says here, now Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He did not say seeds as of many, right? But as of one, to your seed, which is Messiah. Now, he's talking about the heir. He's talking about the heir. the heir of his household in Genesis chapter 15. Genesis chapter 15, there was two promises made. One about an heir over his house, and then one about his children being multiplied. So the promise was given to him and that one heir. And so Paul is trying to reiterate that from Genesis. Hey, remember, the promises wasn't to the seeds, right? I want you to think about this. The seeds, the inheritors of everything, is different from the heir of his house. The head of his house is different from everybody else. Everybody can't be the head of Abraham's house, right? That's one. Everybody can't be the father of many nations. That's two, right? These are two specific promises that don't go to every single Israelite. But it seems like the Ashkenazis, the Hebrew Israelites, it seems like even the Christians, they just think all of us are entitled to this thing. No. In order to participate in Abraham's blessing, you have to participate in that son, in that heir, which is Yahushua. If you don't participate in that son, you don't participate in nothing Abraham has. And that goes with them at that time. That goes with them at that time. Now watch this. What's going on with these people popping up? I'm gonna need some moderators to keep these clowns a little bit quiet on the chat, because please don't just come and start ranting. You know what people remind me of? They remind me of those people with the billboards back in the days. The end is coming. Run, the end is coming. Like, calm down, man. Calm down. Sister Paula. I will add you as a sure, Aliyah. Thank you. And I'll let you know when to get these clowns out of here, because I don't want anybody being distracted unnecessarily. Please, I love the questions, but you know, Elijah, Jesus are women. I don't even know where that name. I don't even want to know. Thank you, Sister Aliyah. All right. Kevin Williams, it says, so what are the promises in Romans 9:3-5 that pertain to Israel according to the flesh? It's the same promises. There's no different promises. The promises that was given to Israel was always meant to be extended, because that's how you bless all the families of the earth. Israel's supposed to bless all the families of the earth by the same means. That's why Israel was supposed to teach what was given to them. They were supposed to shine what was put in their possession. So there's no different promises. It's everything that is given to them was supposed to be expanded to bless the nations. Yah told us that we are blessed, right? He said through Moses, he said, you have blessings and cursings. It's the same way. Yah is not going to make a brand new method of blessing you because you're not blood related. No, it's the same way. You keep my commandments, I will bless you. You know what I mean? Yes, Sister Paula, of course. You see what I'm saying? It's the same method. Let me show you proof of that. Please, thank you for this. So we're going to go a little bit further. If we need to do a part 2, we will. We got a lot to touch on because I want to touch on Judah. I want to touch on Jacob. I want to touch on Solomon. I want to touch on all of those things about this seed, this son that everybody keeps emphasizing on, but they're not putting it on the proper place. And so they're having this wrestling of pointing to themselves as the guy, this is about me. And it's just like, yeah, there's things about us. There's things about us, but the main thing is about him. You know, so if that's not the main thing to you, you can't participate in nothing that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has. And this has been since Genesis. This was the standard since Adam. You see what I'm saying? But let me show you this, right? Romans 9. So you got Romans 9 about according to the flesh. Man, what was I going to show you? Can you remind me what I was going to show you? Oh, the promises. Okay, yes. I was going to show you the promises are the same. So watch this. All right. So Exodus chapter 12, he first initially talks about the Passover, and he says this, inclusive, right? Inclusive, not exclusive. Inclusive, right? It says here in verse 48, when a stranger sojourns with you, right? Remember, all the children of Israel are together in Egypt, all of them, every tribe. When a sojourner shall sojourn with you and wants to eat the Passover, let all his males be circumcised, then let him come and keep it, right? And he shall be as one born in the land. They wasn't even in the land at this point. The land was the representation of the land is literally centered around his people. You know, if you was a part of the people, you was a part of the land, right? So even though they're in Egypt, it says he shall be as one that is born in the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat it. One law shall be to him that is homeborn and to the stranger that sojourns among you. The law, one law, the same law. There's no new law for the Gentiles like the Ashkenazis give. There's no second law. There's no half law. There's no Gentile law. No, it's one law for the homeborn and one law for the stranger. That's it. It's the same method of blessing. This is how the whole all the families of the earth will be blessed, because we're sharing what we have with them. We're not giving them something different, a different method or a different window to hop in the kingdom with. No, the same way that we have to go in is the same way they have to go in. You see what I'm saying? So we have to understand the consistency of his laws, consistency of his covenant. Isaiah 56, it says here, don't let the son of the stranger that join himself to Yahuwah, right? So the stranger joins himself to Yahuwah, joins himself to the Most High. Yahuwah says, don't let him say that Yahuwah has separated me from his people. He's telling the strangers not to say that. Don't think this. Don't say this. If you joint yourself to me, don't ever say that you are separated from my people, right? Watch this. Watch this. Verse 6. The sons of the stranger that join themselves to Yahuwah. This is just this part right here is just so important. Join themselves to the Most High. To serve him, right? And to love the name of Yahuwah, right? To be Yahuwah's servants, right? It didn't say nothing about being Israel's servants, even though they serve one another. Everyone that keeps the Shabbat. Now he's talking about the stranger keeping the Shabbat and from polluting it and taking hold of my covenant, right? Even them will I bring into my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and sacrifices accepted upon my altar. Look what it says. My house shall be called a house of prayer for how many people? For all people. So the strangers in Exodus 12, since there was no Israelite strangers, because in Egypt, all 12 tribes were together in Egypt. So the foreigners that wanted to join in were not the 12 tribes that Moses gave instruction to keep the Passover. The foreigners we're talking about whoever was in Egypt, because Egypt is a junction. It was a junction of trade. Like many nations lived in Egypt. Egypt wasn't just Egyptians. Many people traveled and dwelt and lived in Egypt. It was like a main city. It's kind of like it was like Egypt was like New York, right? Or California. It was like a main city hub where everybody went because they could do business and grow in their money. You know what I mean? So this is what Egypt was like. So when he's talking and giving this instruction to Israel in Exodus 12, then after that, at the very end, he mentions the strangers that want to participate. The strangers that want to participate in the serving of the Most High. And he tells them how to go about allowing these people in. You see what I'm saying? Absolutely. The loving the name of Yahuwah. I mean, of course, they love his existence, his actual name, but to love his authority, meaning that he's their Elohim, he's their Most High, he's their authority, he's their ruler. He rules over them, and they love it. This is what we love. When we love the name of Yahuwah, the name of Yahushua, we love his rulership. We love his guidance. We love his direction. This is what it means by we love his name. You can't love his name and like walk contrary to him. That doesn't make sense, you know. But you can love his name because you love the fact that he is your righteousness. He is your authority. He is your refuge. He is your king. He is your Elohim. You know. You said the focus. What focus? The focus where? I want to know, because the focus is literally everybody is waiting for the one seed. Nobody's waiting for the children of Israel. This is why 20,000 can die in the wilderness. You can get cut off on the Day of Atonement. You working. You could get stoned on Shabbat for working. You could get cut off. So the focus is somewhere else. If you go against the focus, you're cut off. So Yah focuses on his people, but it's not like he can't cut you off. You know what I mean? Like, we have to understand that our value is in his son. Our value is not like we're like some type of piece of gold. No, even in Ezekiel chapter 16, it talks about how he found us covered with blood, despised, and he cleaned us up. It wasn't like he found a piece of gold and was like, oh man, there's no innate value in the children of Israel. The value of the children of Israel comes from Yah. It comes from being with Yah. There's no value. It says, matter of fact, thank you. Let's look at that. These are the questions that we need to clarify. The focus of Yah's heart. Let's go to Deuteronomy 32. Absolutely, brother. And I want to correlate this with is it in Deuteronomy also? Well, we'll see. So let me pull it up on the screen. All right. Deuteronomy 32, looking at verse 8 and 9, it says here, and when the Most High divided the nations and their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the portion, for Yah's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. Absolutely. Absolutely. But did you get an inheritance if you was disobedient? No, absolutely not. How about the stranger? Clayton G, put in the chat. Does the foreigner get an inheritance with Yah? And if the stranger gets an inheritance with Yah, does not the stranger become Yah's portion as well? Right? Didn't Isaiah 56 say, don't say you are separated from his people? So when Yah says Yah's portion is his people, And he just told the stranger not to separate himself. Yah told the stranger not to separate himself from his people. So when Yah says Yah's portion is his people, he's including, according to the prophet Isaiah, he's including that. But what about the nation's inheritance? Does the stranger participate in the nation's inheritance? Because that would make the nations, or the righteous nations, a part of his focus as well, right? Yes. I don't remember what I was going to say before, but I'll show you this now. Ezekiel 47, 22. It shall come to pass that you shall divide it by lot, right? Just like in Deuteronomy 32. You shall divide the land by lot, right? Let me go up to verse 21. You shall divide the land according to the 12 tribes, according to the tribes of Israel, right? We got that, right? Watch this. It shall come to pass that when you divide the lot for an inheritance to you, right? It says here, the stranger that sojourns among you, which shall beget children among you, they shall be unto you born in the country among the children of Israel. Look what it says right here. Look what it says right here. I'm going to put it in pink. They shall have inheritance with you among the tribes of Israel. They shall have some land as an inheritance. It shall come to pass that whatever tribe the stranger sojourns with, they're gonna have inheritance with that tribe. And the tribe ain't got no problem. The tribes ain't got no problem because we're already partners. You love the Most High and I love the Most High. And that's all we care about because we're supposed to bless the families of the earth. How do we bless them? With the same blessing and inheritance that we got. You see that? Clayton G, Kevin Williams, let me know if you see that. You see that? The focus will never be centered around bloodline. There wasn't an importance in bloodline because the promised seed had to come through the bloodline. So he had to preserve the bloodline till the seed comes. And he preserves the bloodline because he loves the fathers of that bloodline. He preserves our bloodline. Like our children is preserved because of our covenant with him. You see what I'm saying? Israelite born in the land, deprived Israelites born outside of the land. No, Israelites born in the land has nothing to do with inheritance. Inheritance, it has to do with your tribe, right? So you could be born wherever you want to be born. If you're from the tribe of Reuben, you still have an inheritance because you're from the tribe of Reuben. You're not disconnected from your inheritance because you're born somewhere else. No, Reuben has a inheritance, and that inheritance goes to everybody that's in Reuben. It don't matter where you at. You see what I'm saying? So this is a very important point. The inheritance is the land. It has nothing to do with the people. The people get what Yah gives to what land Yah gives to the tribe. And so whoever's with those people will also get some land. That's what it says. So in the New Jerusalem going to be placed on top of the land flowing with milk and honey, whereas everything will be divided. That's something else. That's going into something else. Ezekiel 37 in regards to the temple, and there's so many things. It's from Ezekiel 30 all the way to 48 is different because the temple that was described in Ezekiel was conditional. It was absolutely conditional. It was based off of the children of Israel was in Babylon, and it was based off of their faithfulness and what Yah would do for them if they were to be faithful. They were never faithful after that. So there's no temple in that regards. We're going straight to the end goal right now. All right. It seems like this is a lot. It seems like this is a lot. Let me ask everybody a question and please answer. You also, Kevin. The promised seed. Do we understand that the promised seed is the waiting for the heir of Abraham's house, the heir of Jacob, Isaac, and Jacob's house is Yahusha? Like he's the heir of everyone. He's the heir of the house. He's the heir of Yah's people. He's the heir of the 12 tribes of Israel to rule over the 12 tribes of Israel. He's the one that was going to bring the compensation for our iniquities. He's the one that was slaughtered on our behalf. He's the one that was promised to crush the head of the serpent. Does everybody understand that? Yeah, 12 gates don't mean anything. It's just like the land. The land of Judah goes to Judah and the foreigner that is with Judah. So they all go in through the same door. See, that's the thing. The house of Judah encompasses strangers. So the gate of Judah encompasses Judah and the strangers that sojourn with Judah. You know what I mean? So the gate is not a blood gate where it checks your blood, your DNA to make sure you could go through the gate. No, that's not how it works. Praise Yah. Praise Yah. Matter of fact, we may have to confirm this point before we continue. We may have to have a part two. But I like the questions. Right. The 12 tribes have an inheritance. That inheritance is not exclusive to the blood relatives. It's inclusive of everyone that serves the Most High, that joins themselves to the Most High and serves Yah with the 12 tribes. Because the inheritance that belongs to the 12 tribes, if there's blood people in the 12 tribes, the inheritance does not belong to them if they do not serve the Most High. You see that? The inheritance is very specific. It goes to those who serve the Most High, not those who are just in the 12 tribes. So you cannot just say to the 12 tribes. You have to say to the 12 tribes that serve the Most High. You have to say that. Because right now, and just to give you guys an insight, right now you're going to run into reincarnation teachings of every single Israelite is going to be saved because they have to go be a part of the inheritance and they have to do this, have to have that. So there's this idea of reincarnation and destruction of everybody else. You see what I'm saying? So we have to understand the inclusiveness of the 12 tribes and not the exclusiveness and saying is us and everybody else is something else. Yah never did that. Abraham never did that. Jacob never did that. We only doing that. You know what I mean? Shalom, Regina. Welcome. Absolutely, Clayton. Discussion is the best. It's the best thing. It's the best thing for clarity. Like it don't make any sense for us to keep our thoughts to ourselves. Let it be scrutinized. You know what I mean? I'm sharing these thoughts with confidence that you guys are going to scrutinize it. Like you guys are going to look at every detail and be like, what about, which is what Brother Kevin Williams is doing, which what I appreciate. That's why I always try to say I appreciate it, because I don't want you guys to think that this is not about that. This is about us straightening all the crooked paths. This is about for us making it plain. How can we make it plain if nobody is discussing what they're thinking? You know, is either you agree with me or you go somewhere else. No. State your claim and be ready to just accept what the truth says and not fight against it because I have this idea that I really, really like. You know what I mean? Just because someone is in Israel doesn't mean that they received the promise. They must absolutely. So the promise is for Abraham and his children. And then that children, remember, that children is supposed to bless all the families of the earth. But those families have to also serve the Most High as well. You see what I'm saying? So you have to put those together because Abraham's promise is that the one of the main points of his family being blessed is to bless the families of the earth. You see that? The moment you take those things out, we're taking away some of the things that Yah promised. Yah's given stipulations. If you don't bless the families of the earth, you're not fulfilling what Yah promised. You see what I'm saying? How can you bless the families of the earth and they're not included in how they obtain blessings? You obtain blessings in the covenant. You obtain blessings in the commandments, in the statutes. You don't receive blessings. You obtain blessing in faith in the King of Israel. You obtain blessings in the Elohim of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. How can you obtain blessing doing something different? This is what the Ashkenazis teach. Like, you got some what they call Noahide laws for you, and then we got all of this stuff over here. Like, nah, that's not. Yah's like, nah, I'm one way. I'm one way. I'm the same Elohim all the time. Is the remnant of the 12 tribes, is it the remnant of the 12 tribes, or is it anyone being faithful? You may have to elaborate so that way I can answer the question properly. So I'm going to answer it according to what I think, but if you could rewrite the question so I can know exactly what you think. I think you're saying, is there a remnant from the 12 tribes? There's always been a remnant of the 12 tribes, right? Like, when you have the 12 tribes that went to Mount Sinai and built the golden calf, right? And then Moses came down and said, who's on Yah's side? And the Levites came over, and then they killed everyone else. Everyone else that survived were the remnant, right? There's always been remnants. When Yah burned down Jerusalem by the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, and then all the king and the king's noblemen and all of these rulers were killed, and all these false prophets were killed, there was a remnant. So there's always a remnant of the tribes of Israel throughout history. But when we're talking about who's being included, who's the blessing that goes to all the families of the earth, that's something different. That's the nations coming into the light. You know what I mean? So there's always going to be a remnant throughout history, because there's always going to be a filtering. Let me say that again. There's always going to be a filtering or a refining of Yah's people. Yah's people is always going to be filtered, right? Even when those people join in, there still is going to be a filtering of all the people. Like, it's not just because you joined in, now you're stuck. No, you can be cut off still. And this is what Paul was trying to explain in Romans chapter 11 with the grafting into the tree. He's saying, now that you're grafted in, calm down. Calm down, because you could get cut off too. Like, Yah is not leaving the cutoff for the natural branches and then letting you just do whatever you want to do. Yah can cut you off too, just like he cut them off. There's no difference. Yah is not a respecter of persons. You see what I'm saying? Yah is not a respecter of persons. There's a clear difference, but the blessings and the promises is going to filter through, and everyone will participate in the same blessing. There may be a different order. There may be some people who are more honorable than others and things like that. Sure. There's always been that. Even amongst the children of Israel, there were more honorable people than others. There were prophets, there were kings, there were like righteous men that were men of virtue. So there's always different types of people amongst the 12 tribes of Israel. But when we're talking about Yah's people coming together because they serve the Most High, and it's inclusive to everyone who wants to serve the Most High with all of their heart. That's his people. He doesn't say the 12 tribes, and no, he says my people. My people. Like, Israel is my people. Everybody who's in Israel has to be serving me. So even the people who are related to Israel, you cannot even be in Israel unless you serve me. So even if you're related to Israel, you could be cut off if you don't serve me. So serving Yah is the only way to be in Israel. You can't be born in Israel and stay there just because you're born. You have to be born in Israel and serve Yah. You have to be born again to serve Yah in Israel. Only a third of the Israelites? Yeah. So we're going to go to specific. It doesn't matter. To me, I don't really care about the 1/3 or anything like that. Why? Because is what makes you cut off and what makes you remain is what we need to know. We need to know how to remain, how to abide, right? How do we stay instead of getting cut off, right? Scriptures that only 1/3, no, it doesn't say that. I don't believe that scripture that talks about a 1/3 of the earth will be burned and the 1/3. I don't think that's talking about Israelites. I think that's disaster and destruction on the whole earth. I don't think there's a numbered amount of people from Israel that's going to be destroyed. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I believe that there's going to be people destroyed in Israel. I just don't believe that Yah gave us a number to dictate that. So you said Zechariah 13:9. Let's look at it. I appreciate the scripture, brother. It says, I will bring the third part through the fire and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried, and they shall call my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Yahuwah is my Elohim. Let me go up a little bit. Sorry. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, against the man that is my fellow, saith Yahuwah of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn my hand upon the little ones. This is talking about when Yahushua was killed, right? It shall come to pass that in the land, saith Yahuwah, 2 parts of them. You don't think this is 70 AD when the shepherd is smited? If you connect verse 7, 8, and 9 together, do you think that maybe he's referring to what will happen after they kill Yahushua? So the shepherd is going to die. Then 2 parts of them will be killed. 1/3 will be left. I believe maybe the 1/3 is the one that served Messiah. Verse 9 says, and I will bring the third part through the fire and refine them, which would be the ones that serve Messiah, and will try them as gold, and they shall call on my name, right? This is after the shepherd was killed. So it's hard for me to kind of put this prophecy all the way, because remember, Zechariah is talking about before Messiah comes, is before the Messiah comes anyway. So it's hard for me to now take this prophecy and make it reapply in our time. You know what I mean? Because the Messiah has already been smitten and the sheep has already been scattered, and now Yah is gathering his people. So if Yah is gathering his people, I'm not sure if I can honestly apply this prophecy to like something that's happening now. You know what I mean? So when prophecies speak on Yah gathering Israel, that's exactly what we were just talking about. Placing them in their own land that he promised to their fathers. Yah is including people of all nations, just trying to get a full understanding. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me show you a verse. Matter of fact, it's in Ezekiel. Where's the Ezekiel verse, Clayton or Kevin, when it comes to the, okay, it's in verse 37, right? The 2 sticks. Is it chapter 37 or 38? Or 36? Oh, it's 37, right? So look at what he says. He says, more of a son of man, take 1 stick, write on it, Judah, right? And for the children of Israel and his companions, right? Judah and the companions. Then on another stick, you're going to write Joseph or Ephraim, right? And for all the house of Israel and his companions. Right? So it's not only about Judah and Ephraim or the house of Israel, but also his companions. Join them together as 1 stick, and they will become one in your hand. When the children of your people shall speak to you, saying, will you not show us what you mean by these? Say unto them, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph that's in the hand of Ephraim and the tribes of Israel. Look at this. And the tribe of Israel, his fellows, and will put them with him, with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be of one, and they shall be one in my hand. So, matter of fact, verse 11, right? Let's go back up to verse 11. Look what it says here. Son of man, these bones are it says here, the whole house of Israel. The whole house of Israel. Now, the thing about these statements here is it would be different if he said the 12 tribes of Israel, because later on he starts to get specific and says one stick is for Judah and the children of Israel and his companions. Right. But he's also talking about the companions of Judah and the house of Israel and the companions of Israel, the whole entire house. The house of Israel does not encompass one. And here's the thing. I want us to kind of remember, because people can believe whatever they want to believe about exclusivity. This is only this particular blood group. But if we look at Deuteronomy 29, I want you to see this. This is before they go into the promised land. These are the words of the covenant. I think we talked about this, Clayton. Yahuwah commanded Moses to make the children of Israel beside the covenant that he made with them in Horeb. Moses called unto all Israel and said to them, you have seen all that Yahuwah did before your eyes in the land of Egypt, unto Pharaoh and unto all his servants and unto his land. The great temptation which your eyes have seen, the signs and those great miracles. And then he talks about the 40 years that has just passed. Now watch this. Keep therefore the words of this covenant, do them that you may prosper in all that you do. And then it says, you stand this day, all you before Yahuwah your Elohim, your captains of your tribes, right? The 12 tribes. The captains of the 12 tribes, the elders and officers, and all the men of Israel, right? Your children, your wives, and then it says this. He's making a covenant with the stranger that is in your camp, guys. These are all the people that went into the promised land after the 40 years. Yah said, I'm going to make a covenant with you, all the men of Israel, your children, your wives, and your stranger that is in your camp. I'm going to make a covenant with you that you should enter into covenant with Yahuwah. The stranger that is in your camp is entering into covenant and into his oath, which Yahuwah makes with you this day, that he may establish you today for a people. What is he establishing for a people? The stranger, the wives, the little ones, and all the men of Israel and the tribes. That he may establish to you for a people unto himself. Now, does a people unto himself exclude the stranger here in Deuteronomy 29? Yes or no in the chat. Does the covenant that he's making with the children of Israel exclude the stranger that is in the camp from entering into the covenant and becoming a part of Yah's people? And then says that he may be unto you a Elohim, and he has said to you, as he has sworn unto your fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, neither with you only do I make this covenant and with this oath, but with him that stands here. Who was standing there? The stranger was standing there with us this day before Yahuwah our Elohim, and also with him that is not here with us this day. Right? So does this leave out the stranger from being in Yah's people, being a part of the inheritance of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, from being a part of the covenant that Yah is going to make with them right before they go into the land, right? It does not exclude them, right? So if it does not exclude them here, it should never exclude them anywhere else. There's never going to be a statement that's going to exclude people from the covenant just because they're not blood related. There's never going to be a time. We saw it in Exodus. We see it in Deuteronomy right before they go into the land. So there's no reason for us to look at any prophecies, even though Ezekiel says that the stranger sojourns with you. He's not going to keep on saying Israel and the strangers, Israel and no, he's just going to say Israel. Israel encompasses the strangers that's with them, that serves the Most High. The house of Jacob encompasses the stranger that serves the Most High. It does not exclude them. All right. I'm not sure what you want to say. And so instead of asking the question, I want you to tell me what you're thinking, so that way we can kind of discuss that. All right. So since we're gonna have a part two. We're gonna have a part two. I may pop up in the middle of the week. I don't know for sure. I want to, but I may pop up in the middle of the week. So please put the notification bell on, like, share, subscribe, join the membership. Let's keep this going forward. I do want to talk about a few individuals real quick before we go. Give me 1 second. I appreciate you, Kevin Williams, for those questions. These are the questions that's going to help clarify everything. We have to be careful and not deviate, but I need you to sometimes it's not really the question. You guys can also write saying, what you thought, like, oh, my thoughts was, and I can say I agree, I can confirm it with scripture, or I can say why I disagree. Same thing with you guys. When I'm saying something and you have like a disagreement, I don't need you to tell me that you disagree. I need you to show me. So it'd be like, I disagree because of this verse here or these scriptures here. You know what I mean? So likewise, it may be good sometimes if you say, I disagree. I disagree because of this, this, this. What do you think? You know what I mean? And then I could know which angle to address. But with the questions, I'm just going off of what I think the questions mean. So if you have a specific idea that you want to tackle, you will have to be very specific in your statements. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna just do it off the top of the head. I know. Have you guys heard of Caleb? I'm pretty sure you guys heard of Caleb. So I want to show Caleb, right? Let's look at Caleb. Let's look at who Caleb was, who his father was, right? I really enjoy you guys. I want you to know that I really enjoy you guys testing. Now I'm very OCD. I had to deal with a lot of people not willing to answer my questions when I was searching for truth. And I am now not wanting to do that at all. But with the amount of questions that come in, I have to be more controlled with going into this, right? Going into all the questions and the, because I have to be able to steer. So right now in my mind, I've been for so long, I've been just like, just wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do. Now it's kind of like if I'm going to teach something specific, I can't do that, but I have an impulse to kind of wherever you want to go, bring all the questions because I always wanted people to not have to go through having no answers like I did for a long time. So if you guys could help me with that, by saving your questions or putting it together in a, when it comes to certain topics, putting all your questions together, that's why we have Q&As, and then we're trying to have topics. So put all your questions together and then kind of like, posting it here as we go on, instead of like to, everything at once, because I do want to do that, but I don't want to confuse other people. All right, so Caleb, right? Look what it says about Caleb. Caleb was from the tribe of Judah, and I want you guys to see he was the son of Jephthah. He was the son of Jephthah, right? So it says that he's from the tribe of Judah. I want you guys to understand, this is when they left Exodus. This is when they left Egypt, So they left Egypt, and so they left Egypt. And remember, before they left Egypt, Yah told them that if the stranger wants to participate in the Pesach, the Passover, this is what they would have to do. The stranger that is with you, that wants to serve Yah, this is what they needed to do. So this is clear that there were people that were, they were in Egypt for like 200 years. There were people that were joined to the tribes already. So Yah was addressing the people that joined themselves to the tribe that wanted to serve the Most High. And so the tribe of Judah, Caleb, the son of Jephthah, right? Let's continue to look at this, right? Numbers chapter 32 says this, verse 12. Please, I need you to watch this. Caleb, the son of Jephthah, and then it says Jephthah is the Kenazite. Jephthah is the Kenazite. Now, where do we see Kenazites mentioned? Well, we see Kenazites mentioned in Genesis 15 of the people that lived in the land. It says, in the same day, Yahuwah made a covenant with Abraham, saying unto him that I will give you this land, right? From the river Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. And he says, I'm here thinking I'm showing you the scriptures, man. Let's go back real quick. Numbers 13:6. Thank you, walking your ways. See, I need you guys to watch me, man. The tribe of Judah, Caleb, the son of Jephthah, right? Numbers 32:12. None of the men of the camp out of Egypt, 20 years and up, shall see the land which I swear to Abraham, unto Isaac, Jacob, because you have not entirely followed me, except Caleb, the son of Jephthah, the Kenazite, and Joshua, the son of Nun, for they have entirely followed me, followed Yahuwah, the Kenazite, right? And so we're going to see who the Kenazites are. The Kenazites were the people that lived in Canaan. I give you the land. And it says here, the Kenites, the Kenazites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaims, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. The Kenazites are the people that lived in Canaan. They are Hamites. They are Canaanites. They lived in Egypt. They lived not in Egypt. They lived in Canaan when Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was in Canaan during the time of Israel, right? So Jephthah was a Kenazite. Jephthah was a Kenazite. So now looking at Kenazite, who is the progenitor of the Kenazites? It says here, descendants of Kenaz. Descendants of Kenaz, right? Are you guys ready? Who is Kenaz? If we go to Genesis chapter so who is Kenaz? Let's go to Genesis 36. These are the names of Esau's sons. Eliphaz, Ruel, and the sons of Eliphaz, Kenaz. The Temanites, which you see in the book of Job, one of Job's friends was a Temanite. Kenazites, Kenaz is the progenitor of the Kenazites, which are great grandsons of Esau. Esau's great grandson is Kenaz. Kenaz's great great grandson is Jephthah, and Jephthah's son is Caleb. It makes sense because, well, not because of this, but it's evident because when you look at Caleb's name, I want you to realize, like, Israelites don't name their kids. Israelites don't name their kids dog. Like you don't name your kid dog, right? Everything that you name your children, everything that they name their children, emphasizes on Elohim or Yah, right? So let's look at Caleb's younger son, younger brother, because you have Jephthah had Caleb, that was his oldest son, and then you had his younger brother, and you want to know his younger brother's name. And his younger brother was a great man in Israel as well. Watch this, guys. Joshua chapter 15. It says, Caleb said, let me take this off. Caleb said, whoever smites Kirjath Sepher shall take it. To him I will give Eshna, my daughter, to wife. Othniel, the son of Kenaz. Who's Kenaz, guys? Kenaz is Esau's grandson. Othniel. Oh, now we're getting into the Hebrew names. Now his younger brother got the Hebrew names, right? So Caleb is named Dog, but then the younger brother, Jephthah, names him Othniel. Let's see what that means. Othniel means the lion of Elohim, the son of Kenaz. There's no way around it. There's no way around this right now. So Othniel is now, Jephthah starts naming his children Hebrew names because nobody names their children Dog, right? So now Othniel is his brother, son of Kenaz. So Caleb is the son of Kenaz. Shalom, Kevin. Watch this. It came to pass that as she came, that she moved him to ask of her father for a field, and she lighted off for the donkey. And Caleb said to her, "What do you want?" He says, "Give me a blessing, for you have given me a southland. Give me also the springs of water." Now, he says, "This is the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Judah according to their families." Right now, How did Caleb, now let's consider this. We just saw Kenaz is the Kenazites are people that lived in Canaan, but the Canaanites come from Kenaz. Kenaz is Esau's grandson. How is he named Judah? How is he from the tribe of Judah now? How is he the main general of the tribe of Judah? Now, when they went and got their inheritance, watch this, guys. When they went and got their inheritance, did Caleb just go in and get his inheritance? Did they just say, oh, well, you're in the tribe of Judah, so here's your part, here's your part, here's your part? The answer is no. When he went in, he could not get an inheritance. So I want to show you this. I want to show you this. Watch this, guys. Let's go to the book of Joshua, because you know Joshua and Caleb they were together. Look at what it says here. Caleb requests inheritance. Why is Caleb, please tell me, why, if they went in to the inheritance, right? Nobody's asking for inheritance. Yah already told Joshua what goes to who. Why would Caleb have to ask? Caleb out of everybody. Why would he have to ask for inheritance? If he's from the tribe of Judah, why wouldn't he have to keep or get that inheritance? Let's look at it. Watch this, guys. It says here, and the children of Joseph were two tribes. And so he says, and Yahuwah commanded Moses, so the children of Israel did, and they divided the land, right? Everybody got their land. The children of all the tribes got their land. But then the children of Judah came to Joshua, right? And they said, Caleb, the son of Jephthah the Kenazite, right? Emphasis on his lineage. It says, you know the thing that Yahuwah said to Moses, the man of Elohim, concerning me and you in Kadesh Barnea. Right? So Caleb, the tribe of Judah was with Caleb. And Caleb was telling Joshua, you remember what happened at the land. 40 years old was I when Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, sent me to spy out the land, right? So this is 40 years before they had to walk 40 years. He was promised that mountain that they went out to spy the land. So he says, nevertheless, my brethren that went up with me made the heart of the people melt, but I entirely followed Yahuwah my Elohim. Moses swore on that day, saying, surely the land whereon my feet have trodden shall be your inheritance. But remember, Kadesh Barnea is in the tribe of Judah's land. It's in the land of Judah. So why does Yah have to promise him Judah's land if he is from the tribe of Judah by blood? It says, this mountain will be your inheritance and your children's forever, because you entirely followed Yahuwah your Elohim. Now behold, Yahuwah have kept me alive and said these 45 years, even since Yahuwah have spoken the word. This is 5 years after Deuteronomy. Even since Yahuwah spake this word unto Moses while the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness, lo, I am this day 85 years old. And I am strong this day as I was in the day that Moses sent me in my strength. Even so my strength now for war, both to go out and to come in. So he says, now therefore give me this mountain, just as Yahuwah said. For you heard in the day how the Anakims were there, and that the cities were great fenced. And if so be, Yahuwah will be with me, then I shall be able to drive them out. Talking about driving them out from Judah's land. Joshua blessed them and gave Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, Hebron for an inheritance. Hebron therefore became the inheritance. Look, watch this. Hebron became the inheritance of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenazite, unto this day. It keeps on mentioning where his family line is from. Why? Because he entirely followed Yahuwah. Why not just because he's from Judah? No, but because he's followed Yahuwah. That's why Yah gave him a piece of Judah. Hebron was in the tribe of Judah's land. The name Hebron before was Kirjath Arba, which Arba was a great man among the Anakims, and the land did rest from war. That why Caleb wouldn't have to ask. Remember, nobody and no leader in the tribes asked for the land. They divided it up and they gave it to the tribe, and the tribes divided it up amongst the leader, and the leaders had to divide up the land for the people. Caleb was supposed to be the leader of Judah, but he went with Judah to remind Joshua that he was promised to have land with Judah. And so Yah gave him the city of Hebron. That was where Abraham lived. He gave him the city of Hebron because of his faithfulness, not because he was from the tribe of Judah. It kept on mentioning that he was a Kenazite. Israelites are not Kenazites. There is no Israelite Kenazite. So the Kenazites are the people that lived in Canaan, the ones that they had to drive out. The ones they had to drive out, he's a Kenazite, and so Yah gave him because of his faithfulness. So we see Caleb is not an Israelite, but he was grafted in, or his father initially dwelt with Jephunneh. His mother probably was from Judah, but his father dwelt with Judah and had Caleb, and so Caleb served the Most High, and Jephunneh served the Most High. That's why they keep honoring him by calling his name, son of Jephunneh. So everybody knew Jephunneh. So they knew Caleb. So they honored him by giving him that land. Yah promised that land that was in Judah to him, because he wouldn't be able to have that land if it wasn't established with Yahuwah first. You see what I'm saying? Absolutely, Brandon. That's what we've been going over this whole time. But I hope that you guys see Caleb is a Kenazite. His father was a Kenazite. And by the time we get to his younger brother, his father named his younger brother Othniel because he wanted to honor Yah with the name that reflect who Elohim was, the Lion of Elohim. And then you have the rest of their generations is serving Yah. You know what I mean? Except for when we get to Nabal. I know many people don't know Nabal is actually related to Caleb. He's actually referred to as a what do you call him? Calebite. What they called him? Oh, it didn't say anything. In 1 Samuel chapter 25, it says that Nabal was from the house of Caleb. You know, so Nabal wasn't, he was a disrespectful man. Peace to you, brother. Welcome. So that's not the only thing. You have that, and then you have this right here. I'm going to just do one more, and then we're going to close. And I want you guys to keep this in mind. When your person is joined to Yah, then they're not even, their identity is not even referred to as something away from him. You know what I mean? Sure, you can point out the lineage, right? Joshua, son of Jephunneh, son of Kenazite, but then you have him being acknowledged as from the tribe of Judah in Numbers 13. So when it talks about technicalities and the inheritance, they call him the son of the Kenazite or the son of Kenaz, but there's no Kenaz in the tribe of Judah. But when it comes to naming the heads of the families of Israel, it says that he's from the tribe of Judah. You see what I'm saying? I want you guys to see how Yah perceives a person that serves him, not as, oh, you're Jamaican or you're this or no, you're from my people. You're from Israel. You see what I'm saying? Now, this one's going to be crazy a little bit too. Watch. And then I'm going to close. Look at what it says here. First Kings. It says here, Elijah the Tishbite, it says, who was an inhabitant of Gilead, said unto Ahab, as Yahuwah Elohim of Israel lives, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew or rain for years according to my word. So it says, before whom I stand, right? Everybody knows who Elijah is. There's a little phrase right here. What does this mean? I want everybody who has it up to look it up. Who was in the inhabitants of Gilead? Who lived in Gilead? Let's check it out. Let's go. Let's dive deep. Right. So H448 is a compound word. It means from, right? From the inhabitants. That's why it says who was of the inhabitants. So H448 is from, and H8453 is stranger. Tashab, right? Tashab is where the word Tishbite comes from. Tashab is what a Tishbite is, right? So Elijah, the Tishbite, means Elijah, the foreigner. Let me go to the Strongs. It says here, Tashab, he's a Tishbite, is a dweller, but not outlandish, right? Not like adulterous, right? So it says here, it could be it's from a native citizen, a temporary inmate, a mere lodger, a resident alien, a foreigner inhabitant, a sojourner, a stranger. Tashab or Tishbite are the people that lived in the city of Gilead, because there was a city for the stranger. There were cities where strangers would dwell. So Elijah, the foreigner, the stranger, the sojourner, who lived amongst the sojourners or the strangers of Gilead. Let me see if there's a, look at it. So the translator says, who was of the sojourners, right? Look at that. So that's the revised version. Let me see. The TS 2009 doesn't even touch that word, even though they should. How about the Septuagint? Septuagint says, Elud, the prophet, the Tishbite of Tishbe of Gilead. Well, that's not really translating. It's not translating. It's just keeping it the Hebrew words there. Let's see. But we see clearly it says, the revised version says, who was of the sojourners. Young's literal translation says inhabitants. The Hebrew word does not even mean inhabitants. It means sojourner means like a temporary dweller. See, some translations don't even want to translate Tishbe. They leave it as it is. The American Standard Version says, who was of the sojourners, he's from the strangers that lived in Gilead. A Faithful Version says, of the strangers. Elijah's of the strangers. That's why he's a Tishbite. Many people don't even know what Tishbite comes from. It comes literally from the word that's right next to it, Tishab. Elijah is a foreigner, but Elijah was one of the greatest prophets in Israel. So I don't have no problem with that. But if people want to keep a certain perspective, it's going to kind of crumble. For Caleb and Elijah specifically, it's going to crumble that perspective of blood only at any point in time, because you have a stranger prophet and you have a stranger general that led the tribe of Judah. So, oh, I'm sorry, not just a stranger, an Edomite that led the children of Judah to war against his own people because he was against the Kenazites, the Hittites, the Jebusites. He drove them out because he served Yah now. He was Yah's son. He wasn't no Kenazite son. He was Yah's son. You see what I'm saying? It didn't matter. So I think this is correlating with the seed. When we go back, we're going to go back to the focus. When we go part 2, we're going to we started from Isaac. We showed Isaac didn't bless all the families of the earth. But there's one heir that's going to bless all the families of the earth, and all the children of Israel has to be under that heir. And if you are not under that heir, you are not a part of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You are not a part of his seed. You are not a part of his children. It don't matter whose blood you got. You know? So, but this is not negating the emphasis that Yah wanted a literal blood family to bless all of the foreigners of the earth. This is just what he wanted, but they didn't do it. They didn't do it. And so it doesn't mean that the stranger has to do it. It means that now he's going to include other people, and now they're, as a whole, they're still required to do it. Like, we're still required to bless the families of the earth with all of the people that serves Yah now, you know, and loves his name and keeps his Shabbat and keeps his covenant. All of those people have to be lights and bless all the families of the earth to extend what was given to Israel to everyone else. So Yah can have one people, and he's going to call his one people Israel. He's not going to say, I have one people, one sheep, one fold, and he's going to be like, I have one fold, Israel and strangers. Like, he's not going to do that. His one fold is Israel. And there's no spiritual Israel. If you're in Israel, you are spiritual. That question came up, and I want to end with this. If you are in Israel, you are spiritual, period. If you are cut off from Israel, it's because you are not spiritual. You understand? There's no such thing as Israel and then spiritual Israel. No, Israel is already spiritual. Here's why. How did Jacob get his name? Was Jacob getting his name a carnal occurrence? Like, he was born and his parents called him Israel? No. He received the name in a spiritual experience. There's no way Israel can be literal Israel, physical Israel, and then spiritual. No, Israel got his name in a spiritual way. How can you be anything else? How can Israel be anything else? Israel has to be spiritual or they're cut off. As we can see throughout from Genesis all the way, you can see if the Israelites are not spiritual, you know they're getting cut off. Whoever is spiritual is because they have the Ruach and they serve the Most High with all of their heart. Those people are spiritual. So if you are spiritual, of course you are part of Israel because Israel is spiritual. If you're just related to the guy named Israel, that doesn't hold no weight. If you're related to the guy named Abraham, that doesn't hold no weight. You have to be spiritual. You have to be servant of the Most High to be a part of this spiritual name, Israel. He gave it to Jacob as a spiritual name. So how do we think that everybody else could do whatever they want to do and be a part of Israel when Jacob had to have a spiritual experience to even get the name? Does that make sense? It doesn't. There's no such thing as spiritual Israel, literal Israel. Israel is spiritual. If you're not spiritual, then you can't be in Israel. That's just how it is. But that's not, I'm telling you now, you're never going to hear that. You heard it first here. There we go. Because other people may be studying that now. There may be people who's understanding that now. But the deception and the confusion is spiritual or literal. No, everything that Yah does physically is spiritual. It's just if you are disconnected from Yah, you are not spiritual. Right? So you have spiritual and carnal. That's what you have in this world. Both are physical things. You have carnal people and you have spiritual people. Right? So if you are a carnal person, you are not going to be a part of Yah's spiritual people. Physical. The physical is always connected to carnal or spiritual. But you can't have physical separated from spiritual, because then you become esoteric. You make spiritual into like mystical or metaphoric and stuff like that. We don't want to go into the esoteric realm of making Israel metaphoric or making Israel mystical. It's not mystical. It's very clear. They are a literal people, and that literal people is a spiritual people, right? If you are not spiritual, you cannot be a part of that physical people. But if you are carnal, you are a part of a different physical people called the world. You see that? So we're going to have a part 2. I'm going to try to jump in. I'm going to try to jump in like in this week. But we'll see. Let's pray on it, and we'll see if Yah opens the door. I do have to do overtime in my job earlier in the week, but I'm gonna see if I could set apart some time to go over part 2. And we didn't do a Genesis study, so we may have a doubleheader this week. I'm gonna try to push through and hop on, and we do that too. So let's keep it moving, Brother O'Dane. Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. Everything that we're talking about, Brother O'Dane said this, that Christianity is claiming to be Israel. I was watching something with my children. Sometimes we listen to songs and worship songs, right? And they were reading scriptures pertaining to Israel as if it was like them, right? And there was no disconnect, not necessarily that they have to look at Israel as a bloodline, but you do have to look at Israel as part of Yah's covenant and his commandment keeping people. You see what I'm saying? So it's crazy how everybody wants to be Israel. Israel don't want other people to be Israel. It's just like, let Yah determine who's who and leave it at that. Yah's the one that determines who's his people. Because you could claim whatever you want to claim, and that don't mean a thing. That don't mean a thing. My words are spirit. Absolutely, Clayton. Absolutely. Everything Yah does is spirit. So if he has a people, his people is spirit. Like that's how it works. John chapter 3 says, he that is born of the flesh is flesh. He that is born of the spirit is spirit. So we need to kind of move out of this this old identity, and we need to kind of recognize like who we are in Yah instead of who we are related to. You see what I'm saying? None of that crap matters at all. It doesn't hold any weight in regards to what you receive at all. It's a good idea for earthly recognition. Hey, I'm related to this person. Yay. Now, what does Yah want from me? You see what I'm saying? It still doesn't matter. What does Yah want from me? Am I related to him? Am I connected to him? Am I born again? My first birth, I'm related to Jacob, right? What about but why does Yah want me to be born again? If I'm already born in the right place, right? No, being born again is where we need to be. Being born again holds our identity, our inheritance, being connected through Yahushua HaMashiach to bring us as children, sons and daughters of Yahuwah, of the Most High. So praise Yah. And there's many groups that say they're Israel. Let Yah say who Israel is. Yah only has one people, Israel, but only those who serve the Most High is a part of that people. So we don't have to worry about calling ourselves Israel, even though you can. We just need to worry about being servants of the Most High. Who are you? I'm a servant of the Most High. I'm a son and I'm a daughter of the Most High. What you mean? I keep his commandments. I'm in a covenant with the Most High. I keep his commandments, statutes, and his judgments. What else I need? He promised with that person, he promised everything to that person. What I mean, you talk about who else I'm related to. That's craziness. So, God bless you guys. We're going to try to push through this week. Keep your notifications on. Share this video. This is only part one. And we're going to do part two later this week. And we are going to solidify a lot of these points. Yeah, go back. Everybody who missed the beginning, I think that is the very, very important. Go back to the beginning to see what we were talking about when we started. But I appreciate all you guys, Kevin Williams, all of you guys that had Clayton G, all of you guys that had those points. Amazing points. You didn't distract anything. These conversations are needed, and it led to still understanding the focus was that seed, which is Yahushua. You see what I'm saying? Which is Messiah. Yeah, Black E None, praise Yah. You have a study group? Yeah, no problem. Praise Yah. You send me a link. Send me a link to my email. I realize even the term telling everyone they're Israelites is very oh yeah, it's like almost devaluing the title Israel, devaluing the high calling it is to be a part of Yah's people. But just, hey, you Israelite. Oh, you Israelite. You guys are crazy. You guys are not even Israelites. That's the crazy part. Anyway, absolutely. It's crazy to devalue Israel to just some carnal blood related people. Carnal means like of the flesh. That's what it means. To devalue the name Israel to like some carnal thing when Jacob didn't even get that name in a carnal way. So it's crazy. Jacob was extremely a spiritual man, experiencing so many things with Yah, visions, dreams. It's like you can't even be like thinking that you just born in this. Jacob had to struggle and wrestle, get his hip dislocated, and you could just be born in this. That's crazy. It's crazy. It's a high calling. You think you could just be related to, and that's it? Nah. You can't even stand next to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob unless you experience Yah, unless you're being refined by him and wrestle with him, go through the faith battles and struggles as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did. There's no way you could stand next to them just because you're related. That's just crazy. Devaluing the walk is diabolical. Is what Satan is really doing right now. He's like, okay, well, the church thing didn't work. Well, let me just do it. Let me do it this way. Let me distort this way. Let me destroy it this way. But one thing that Satan knows, he's not going to destroy what Yah's going to do. Yah's going to raise up people to straighten this stuff out. And that's what we're doing. So praise Yah for his will. Praise Yah for the simplicity of his word, that we can all, if we approach his word as simple as babies, we don't need to be eloquent. We just need to see it for what it is. We can easily see what it's not. So we praise Yah for, even though we're dealing with these English translations, we can see the context in there. So I praise Yah. Yah bless you guys. I hope you have a blessed week. Yah willing, please be prayerful for me, that we'll be able to hop on this week and kind of be refreshed in Yah's word. So praise Yah. You guys have a blessed night. Shalom.